Hello, everyone, and welcome. It's been a while. Brad, it's been a while since I've done a live. I took the summer off, took a little respite from live stuff, and decided to just, chill. And you and I were connecting. For those who don't know Brad Wilson, you should. I put his LinkedIn profile here so you can see him and get to know him a little bit better. But this past summer, we were connecting and we were talking about, transitions that people are making and how so many people have just decided they were transitioning away from traditional ways of doing work, business, living their lives, and wanting to be in a place and a headspace that respected who they were as really just good people. And you and I got to talking about sometimes good people do finish first, and it was just a great conversation. And to know that you have written a book about it and it's about to be published is even better. So I wanted to bring us on to really talk about that and talk about your journey to writing the book, talk about good people, and that they do not finish last and all of those good things. So Brad, welcome. Tell us, what's going on and how did you get to this space?
Hey, thanks, Pam. It's so good to see you. And it's been such a long time that we've seen each other in person with this COVID thing going on, right? And I think one of the last times, the time we presented together, I think we were in Detroit, right? At the National Association for African Americans in HR. And that was so great. And I remember something that you said to me and said to the group, that there's enough for everyone. Right? There's enough for everyone. And I think sometimes we get so wrapped up, in politics at work. And, we look at our peers sometimes and our coworkers less as teammates and more as competition for, I don't know what we're fighting for, Pam. I don't know what we're going after. And so, I just, after 25 years and a good portion of that in HR roles, just watching the destruction of teams based on, kind of vain ambition or people going after each other and forgetting about their goodness that we have. I mean, in my mind, I think we're all born with goodness. And in my book, I talk about, when we're kids, our parents are always telling us, be good, treat others the way you want to be treated. Right. And so then you land in school or you land in work or whatever it is, and you're like, what? Why is this so opposite than from what I was taught? And I would say my journey toward this book is just writing about how goodness really is the best way, and we can win. And honestly, if our workplaces really promote, reward, and are pushing forward goodness rather than and all those things we just talked about, then we can win. We can be successful. So,
well, talk to me then about, those good people, right? Who do we know? Somebody's saying, I know good people winning out there. You got to be cutthroat to make it and do all those things. Who's a good person that is winning, has won, is a role model for us?
I would say that there are a lot of examples out there, and the go-to is someone like a Mother Teresa, right? Very, very famous, right? And one in what she did, honestly. And can you think of examples where she was being nasty to others or taking them out? And honestly, here's the tricky part too, and what I see, and I think something we need to get away from us as a society is, okay, I'm going to get that top level role and then I'll start being nice. Right. That's not how it should work. I mean, we should be able to bring our goodness to work and be successful and be rewarded for that. And I get what you're saying. There's you got to be nasty here and there. And I wouldn't, so I don't know what your opinion is on Jeff Bezos, and how he got to where he was. Honestly, I don't know the whole background.
Right.
But he just said something recently that was profound. And I don't know if whatever your opinion is about him, and he's been very successful with
I wrote about him in my last book. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, as far as being successful, he's very successful, right?
Yeah.
And again, whatever your thoughts are with him, he just said something. You know how he just gave away the $200 million, right? $100 million to two people.
Yep.
Or Van Jones was one of them, to help them in their efforts for just charities for helping people, right? Which I thought was cool. And he said something when he was doing that he gave away. He said, it's easy to be courageous and be mean. I think, I don't know if I'm getting that correct. Yeah. Try being courageous and being civil.
Wow.
So when he said that, I was like, oh, wow, I got to write that down. Try being courageous and being civil. And so I would say, it's hard to pick one person that has been being good, but if he lives his life that way, that's correct, right? Like how we need to be courageous and we need to be civil. And one of the things I talk about in my book is about how you need to be courageous and be good at the same time. What is the caricature or the stereotype of a nice person? They don't win, right?
No.
And so, but if we are courageous and good at the same time, then we can do that. So being nice doesn't mean roll over when someone opposes you.
Right.
So that's what I talk about in my book is how do you bring that goodness, but still you have to push back when you need to push back. You have to call people out for things that are wrong that they're doing. I think sometimes we're so fearful of, and a good person is very intuitive. They watch how people function. They watch how they work. And so, well, if I say that to them, I know that's going to offend them. And so they stay away from that because it's kind of self-preservation sometimes, which is where good, nice people get that reputation of they're weak. It's because they're intuitive around how people feel and how they're doing. And so if you live in that fear world, and I don't want to say that to that person, because if I said that, they could do this to me and that would do damage to me. It's about being good, but also being courageous and saying what needs to be said sometimes, but saying it in the right way, saying it in the kind way.
Yeah, I don't think you have to. Yeah, I don't think you have to be, and I don't think you have to be nasty nice. That type of nice where you're really being nasty and people know it, but you put a smile on it. Like they say, putting lipstick on a pig or something like that. It's like, no, just be nice, be a nice person, still get what you want. And one of the things I've been doing lately is helping people learn how to negotiate and get what they want. And you don't have to be nasty to do that. You can be a really, really cool person. It's just showing up with authenticity and credibility and just being who you want to be unapologetically, right? And if it means that, I don't, because I don't expose someone's, jugular, that I don't get what I want, it means, maybe this isn't for me. And I can move on with that because I held to my morals, my ethics, my code of being with my name and my reputation. It's like, well, what do I want to be? And how do I really want to show up? And how, do I want to leave a string of dead bodies, or do I want to leave a reputation that's solid and intact and that people defend me even when I'm not in the room and when I'm not present? I totally, absolutely agree with that. What do you then say to people who will say, yeah, that's good now, but this nastiness, this cutthroat nature, one, it's hard to undo, but if it weren't for that, I wouldn't be here. I'd be underneath somebody's foot somewhere, still back in the clerk room or something like that. Not that there's anything wrong with being in the clerk room, but just what do you say to people who say, yeah, but this is what got me here. I can't imagine that being any different would have gotten me here.
I don't know. I would question if you wouldn't have got there. And I know the cruel nature of business. And I would say too is, so are you really happy where you are if you got there doing it that way? One thing I put in my book too is I have no trouble, Pam, sleeping at night. I really don't, because I don't reflect on things that, gosh, I wish I wouldn't have done that. And if I do something, I think that's out of that goodness nature, which I do, we all do, we're not perfect. I seek to rectify it. But what I see a lot of times with CEOs, with leaders, they refuse, first of all, to admit they made a mistake. They refuse to apologize for what they had done because they think it shows weakness. So I would say that that if you want to live your life that way, I guess you could continue to act that way. But eventually, it's not like we can all be that way and be at the top of the heap and then decide I'm going to be a philanthropist eventually.
Right.
Because I stepped on all these bodies on the way, like you say, and then I'm there. And I honestly, I think of one thing in my career that I really do regret, and it's around this principle that I was leading an HR team, and we had an administrative assistant who, she wasn't perfect. She was making mistakes, but just the nastiness of politics. Basically, a couple of people decided, I don't like her. I don't want her here. And so the clause came out, and eventually, basically what happened was the whole team, because they were the good people, who just said, well, okay, well, since everyone else is saying that, I'm going to go along with it. Wow. And I made the decision partly to do a termination because, quote unquote, she'd lost confidence in the team. Mm-hmm. But I'll admit and admit in a not so good way that part of it was, I know that the leadership team wants this to happen, and they'll view me as weak if I don't do this.
Wow.
And frankly, I think, she would have gone on to be successful, but we did do a termination at that point, and it was, in my mind, it was the wrong thing to do, and I vowed never to do that again. So when I say I sleep well at night, I have made mistakes, and I try to correct those, but I don't say I'm going to do what I know is the wrong thing because I think I'm doing it for the right reasons.
Right.
So that's what I would say to those people that say, well, I feel like I have to be that way to be where I am. Are you really happy where you are if that's how you got there?
Right. And are you really sleeping at night? And what I find is a lot of folks losing hair, gaining weight, losing weight, on medication, dealing with anxiety, frustrated, can't sleep just all of those different things, because ultimately they're not being who they truly want to be. They're being what they feel like they need to be to get something. And sometimes that something has nothing to do with them. It has everything to do with what they want, like dollars and, prestige and all of that stuff. But you named some folks already who have done really well and have been really nice people. And we don't know them personally, right? So let's say that. I don't know Oprah personally.
Right.
I just know what she portrays, and I like that. And I do know people who've worked with her, and they're like, she's a businesswoman. Yes, she's got to make some tough decisions. Does that mean she's nasty? No, it just means she knows how to make some tough decisions and some tough calls.
And she's not always popular for it.
No, she's not.
People might say, she's a good person. I'm going to target her because, and that's the other thing. Sometimes goodness gets targeted, right? Because it's considered weak and it's an easy target. And like you say, those people that, hey, I'm getting to the top, but I'm going to do it in this way and not just a scrupulous way. Guess who they target? They target the good, nice people because it's easy, right?
Yep.
In their minds.
Yep. They try to cut the legs right off from underneath you. And I've had that happen. And I'm like, I'm still standing. You gonna run into a steel brick wall, a brick wall reinforced by steel. Don't let this niceness fool you. And people are surprised by that. It's like, no, I had one person who said to another person, I would say a couple of years ago, that I did something that was was totally contrary to my brand, that I was nasty to her or something. And this person said, You talking about my Pam Green? Because my Pam Green isn't like that. And I said, well, thank you, because some people might have rode the bandwagon. And she said, no, I knew better than that. And if she did, something was wrong. A rock was in her shoe or something. That was not my Pam Green. And I just so appreciate that. So even when people are nice, we need to be able to stick up and stand up for them, you know, when they're being unfairly targeted.
Right. And honestly, you asked before about, you know, what about those people that say, you know, but I had to be that way to get where I am. They're not going to benefit from that. No. I mean, honestly, I talk about in the book early on when I was a kid, actually, and I was working, and they're just kind of a just unsavory company owner. And I was struggling early in my career, like, because I try to be a nice person. So you come to work, you're like, what is going on here? Mm-hmm. And I grew up in a family of 9 kids. And so you had to get along, right? Yes. And you had to get to each other just out of survival. Mm-hmm. So eventually this company leader that I worked under, and it was in the beginning of my career, and he passed away. And so I went to his funeral. I'm like, what are people going to say about this guy, right? Yeah. And that's another thing, sleeping at night. And also, what do people say about you when it's over, right? When either you leave a company or you leave this life, frankly, what's going to be? And they struggled to say nice things about him, honestly. And I thought, well, how sad is that? And I don't think I want to live my life that way. And I don't want, at the end of the day, to be in that situation. So,
yeah, good. I apologize if you see me glitching. I am having some tech issues on my end, so we'll just keep on going. Because my next question was around your book. You know, what are some of the things people are going to learn as a result of reading your book?
So I was going to say before, and back to the same topic, what I experienced early in my career was I refused to play that game of, you know, give it back to you if you're going to give it to me. So one of the strategies that I talk about is, and then there are strategies on how you maintain your goodness and how you succeed at work, being good. And so instead of, hey, this person's saying this about me, I'm going to attack back and say things about them. It's all right. I'm going to do a self-evaluation and say, okay, does that person have a point? Do I have some weaknesses? Do I have something to improve on? Even if I don't, what is going to make me more successful? And so, am I lacking some education? Am I lacking some knowledge? You've been excellent at branding. Is there something wrong with my branding internally? So some of the strategies I put in there is how do you make yourself better? How do you make yourself more competitive without having to go there? You know what I mean? Not having to go to that space of just attacking people, because I've seen that so much. And honestly, a lot of that, the opposite of goodness, comes from people who are really are afraid and kind of living with fear. And so they say to themselves, I see that person as a threat rather than an opportunity to learn something from. And so, since they're a threat, I've got to attack them with no reason. And so I say in my book, don't play that game. Just make yourself better, and then you become more marketable.
Yeah. Ultimately, it sometimes comes down to the fact that when you see people as a threat, they have something you don't feel like you have. So I'm like, well, why not go get it? Like if they have a skill set or a talent, if you can't get it, build it, develop it in yourself, appreciate it, leverage it, connect with it, partner with it, collaborate with it, get to know it a little bit better, as opposed to putting it down and, kind of prompting yourself up. And you really look bad. Ultimately, it's like people know what you've done. They know what you're capable of. And sometimes your reputation just speaks for itself. And ultimately, people do sort of come around. But it may feel terrible in the moment that you're in it, when you realize, what are they doing? And they're like coming for you. Sometimes you just keep doing what you're doing. Keep being a producer. Keep delivering, keep, building your brand, strengthening your reputation. Ultimately, that stuff sloughs off, but it doesn't mean attack won't come. Just means you are resilient in the face of an attack.
And I would say, and that's exactly right. And how you go about that too is, do you believe in the mission of the organization you either work for or you belong to? If you really do, and if you want them to that endeavor to succeed, then you'll look at a situation. And I struggled for a while in a team where it seemed like everyone was like, all right, I want that opportunity. So it doesn't matter if that's really going to help the company. I just want to do that, and I want to add that to my repertoire or whatever. And so when I stepped back and said, okay, really, let's analyze this situation and say, we've got this opportunity. Who's the best person to do this? Really look at that. And if it's not me, it's not me. And then if it's someone else, then you help them succeed because you know they're the best. And here's the what that produces: a team that trusts each other.
Yes.
That's what I talk about in my book too. If your team doesn't trust each other, then you're not going to have any success whatsoever. You just spin your wheels.
Yep.
Companies who don't have trust in their teams, honestly, they're just lucky they're succeeding. It's not for any other reason. It's just dumb luck.
Yes.
You know. So if you can eliminate that and just take yourself out of it and say, I'm about the mission, and this is what I need to do. And then you say, all right, well, maybe I was missing something for that opportunity. How do I build that in myself for the next opportunity? It's just a change in mindset, because it just seems like, we've gotten into this mode of it's all about me, and I've got to get mine. And if whatever happens, I've got to do that. And it kills teams, and honestly, it kills morale in companies. It kills culture. So I talk really about that change in mindset in the book, about how you get to that point. And honestly, sometimes, Pam, I've got to walk away from this company because it's a culture that's not good for me, and that's scary. And we've got to overcome our fears and say, I've got to get out of that situation, just for me. To be able to succeed, I've got to find a place where we're aligned and we're working together as a team, and not working for our own purposes and just going after what we want. And that's part of the challenge.
Yeah. Well, and I can't wait to get your book, because I know that you're solving a lot of some of the challenges that nice people have, really good people have. What other problems do you hear that good people have that you are going to help folks address in your book?
The big one really is, how do you avoid that target on your back of that nice person? And you're and I want to, we've got away from the term guy, but nice guy finished last. The story about that, I don't know if you know the story. It was a manager of a baseball team, and I think it was the Dodgers, and maybe early on, and they basically were sitting in the stadium, and there were several teams warming up, and they were getting ready for the playoffs. And he said, "See that team over there? It's filled with nice guys. They're going to finish 8th or whatever. They're going to finish last." And that's where that came from. The nice guys finished last. But what the rest of the story is, that manager he said that, and then he went on to teach his players to be dirty players, cheat wherever you could to win. And the end of the story is, he was not a respected baseball manager. He was not. He kind of died unappreciated, because that's how he was living his life. And so I guess what I say is, there is power in being good. And in this book, I'm trying to, let's bring a bit of a revolution about, let's first of all reward people in companies for being good. So I have things in the book that are assessments around companies and self-assessments around goodness. So that's part of it. But how do you get that target off your back of, hey, that person is nice and they're an easy target, I'm going to take them out. So there are a lot of principles in the book that talk about what we were talking about before, that where you can avoid. You can't completely avoid that because people trust you when you're nice, and unscrupulous people take advantage of that. They really do. But like I said, calling people out for things they shouldn't be doing, just being strong and have integrity around your goodness really helps you bear that out.
Super. Well, Brad, I really appreciate you being here, and I'll give you a chance to have some final words. There was something that all of what you were sharing, and I do a lot of work with executive teams, and one of the things is around this idea of being a distinctive team and coming together around a space of trust. And often they fall apart because they just don't trust each other, so they can't have a real good conversation about who's deserving of this next promotional opportunity, or who's deserving of this job, because we are so competitive, and we're like born and bred into that. And what I hear you saying is no more. We can be better, we can do better, and there's some real winning teams that are out here, and your book is certainly going to help us learn how. Any final thoughts? I know that your book isn't quite out yet, but it's coming. So I encourage you, if you're watching this recording, or if you're live, to connect with Brad. He is really, really a good guy. Very, very smart and very talented. And you're definitely going to want to pick up this book and read it. Connect with him to learn more. But what final thoughts would you have?
Well, thanks, Pam. I consider you a great person who really is great at your goodness. So I've always appreciated being around.
Oh, I got to take that. Shoot, y'all hear that? I'm great at my goodness.
That's great at your goodness
right there.
You are. You really are. But it's been such a pleasure today. You're such a great friend, and I appreciate being here. And I would just say, watch for my book coming out. It'll be promoted soon. But don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to be good, and bring that goodness to work, because honestly, you will be successful. Now, depends on it. Sometimes it depends on how you measure success, but you will be successful in your life and in your relationships and all that you do. So I'm looking forward to reading my book, and thanks for having me here today.
Brad, it's been a pleasure. And thank you all for watching, whether you're live or whether you watch this recording later. Make sure that you connect with us on LinkedIn, and we look forward to connecting with you soon. Brad, thanks so much again for being here.
Thanks, Pam. Thanks, everyone.